In 1928, on mountains covered with snow, a climber is on his expedition to the peak. He encounters a glowing sphere of ice on the way and tries to break it with his pickaxe, only to be overwhelmed by an intense blinding light. Just then, he finds himself waking up from a short blackout. Strangely enough, the sphere is gone and there's a scar on his hand. What was that sphere? Why is his hand left injured? This is Movie Club Recaps. Follow us today to the movie titled, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Be aware, there are spoilers. Time travel to modern-day America. Dr. Helen, an astrobiologist, returns home after work with her stepson Jacob. She receives a strange phone call from a man announcing that she'll be picked up in a couple of minutes. While Helen is still confused, the U.S. government shows up and drags her out of the house under federal protection. She has a neighbor take care of Jacob and leaves with the men immediately. Helen arrives at a military base and joins other scientists, who also have no idea about this government mobilization. The group is brought to Ft. Linwood Military Academy, New Jersey. Entering the base, they are required to submit all cell phones and cameras. Helen manages to hide her phone before that. Just then she meets with her friend Michael and has him explain this whole story in a conference room. An object is detected beyond Jupiter's orbit and is moving at 30,000 kilometers per second. It is forecasted to impact Manhattan, eventually would destroy all life on Earth in 78 minutes. Later, Helen secretly makes a phone call to Jacob and tells the boy to hide in the shelter tonight no matter what happens. Next, she is put on a helicopter along with a group of other scientists to formulate a survival plan. However, at the time of the impact, all is quiet. There is a huge sphere landing from the sky, followed by dense fog at the time the helicopter releases all the scientists. Helen slowly approaches the sphere in the bright light and sees a figure also comes to her. As Helen is about to shake hands with that being, government snipers shoot it for Helen's safety. Helen holds the figure and calls for a medic. Just then, a giant robot emerges, creating a sound that irritates all humans and disrupts all electrical systems around. Before the robot can take the being back, it is ordered to shut down by the being. The being is rapidly taken to the operating room to remove the bullet. The doctor breaks the cover around it and finds whale blubber texture and it begins to fall off on its own. The being turns into a human baby as if it was born here on Earth. The being is immediately put into an incubator while it growls. Shortly after that, a full-grown human develops inside the incubator. He's awake and encounters convulsion in the incubator. The first person there to speak to him is Helen. The United States Secretary of Defense, Regina, meets with Helen and the team about the being. It reveals that the aliens landed for the first time on Earth in 1928. The patch of skin removed from the mountaineer's hand was a DNA sample so the being could replicate itself into human form. He introduces himself as Klaatu, a representative of a group of alien races sent to talk to the world leaders. Regina tells him that she is the nearest he is going to get to their president and to just tell her what he wants. He refuses, so she orders Klaatu to be drugged and interrogated instead of being sent to a secure location. Michael objects to her idea but Helen volunteers to drug him. However, Helen injects Klaatu with water, attempting to free him. In the lie detector test, Klaatu takes mind control of the government officer and learns an escape map from him. He then creates the high-pitched sounds and jams the electrical system, finally getting out of the center. Klaatu makes it to a railway station, only to find himself bleeding again from the bullet wound. He then makes a phone call to Helen for help. He is then taken away in Helen's car with Jacob in the back seat, stating that he is a friend to the Earth. In the car, Klaatu requires Helen to give him a jar inside her own pocket, which Helen never knew was there before. He rubs the paste on his wound and sees it heals immediately. She drives in the rain under the man's direction. Meanwhile, the arrival of the sphere has caused a worldwide panic. The United States military manages to destroy the robot from the beginning, whose name is Gort. However, their efforts are discouraged by the robot when most of the drone's attacks are taken down. They capture the robot instead to learn about it further. Elsewhere on the highway, Jacob asks Klaatu what should mankind deal with the aliens at the moment, should they run, fight or stay? Klaatu simply answers none of them and requires Helen to pull over a McDonald's. There he meets with an Asian man named Mr. Wu. It's revealed that he is another alien who had been assigned by the same group of alien civilizations to live with the humans for 70 years. Wu tells Klaatu that he has found the human race to be destructive and unwilling to change, which matches Klaatu's experiences. Their purpose of coming here is to save the Earth from destruction by humankind. After the meeting, Klaatu comes to a forest and orders a smaller sphere hidden in a pond. It turns out there are lots of similar spheres appearing around the world to begin taking animal species off the planet before Klaatu represents the alien civilizations to destroy humankind. During this time, Jacob confronts Helen about the man's presence and the reason Helen has to drive him with them. Helen just tells him it is complicated. Disappointed at Helen, Jacob rushes out to go home by himself. The two then see a sphere flying up the sky, which is seen at other places all around the Earth at the same time. Klaatu comes back from the woods and explains to Helen, saying this planet is dying. Helen tries to convince Klaatu that the world is not bad and that humans can change the Earth for the better. While they are talking, a cop spots Klaatu and reports to the government. Can't convince the cop, Klaatu accidentally kills him by controlling the car hitting the man. Jacob accuses Klaatu of murderer. Just then, Klaatu revives the cop with his superpower. She then takes him to the home of Barnhart, a Nobel Prize-winning professor. The professor talks about how Klaatu's race went through drastic, collaborative evolution to prevent the demise of their planets. Barnhart believes that Earth is at the same precipice, and humanity should be given a chance to understand that it too must change. When the trio is talking, Jacob sees Klaatu on TV news and decides to report him to the police. Seeing the helicopters approaching, the trio runs to the woods to escape. Helen is caught immediately by the military. Jacob is left behind, seeing Klaatu destroy 2 helicopters with his mind-controlling ability. Scared, Jacob runs away and slips on the bridge. Fortunately, Klaatu makes it to save the boy. Meanwhile, in the examination tower, Gort is burnt down. However, the robot seems to be unharmed and transforms into a swarm of winged, insect-like, nano-machines that self-replicate as they consume every man-made object in their path. They quickly spread all around and turn everything into dust. At the same time, Helen convinces Regina that she can stop Klaatu's plan. Back to Jacob and Klaatu, the boy soon realizes Klaatu isn't a bad guy. They arrive at a cemetery where Jacob's father is buried. Jacob tries to persuade Klaatu to save the Earth, just like his father used to sacrifice himself in the war for peace. However, Klaatu doesn't change his mind. At this moment, Helen and Michael arrive. Helen tells Jacob how much she missed his father and they share a good cry. The scene between the mother and son convinces Klaatu. He has a second thought and decides to save humanity. He tells Helen that he is not sure how to stop the alien insects but he will try. The group quickly returns to the sphere, where Klaatu believes he can stop the insects from there. During this time, Regina attempts to convince the president to wait for Helen. However, the government decides to carry their own plan to destroy Gort. On the way, Helen notices something is odd when the entire town has been evacuated. As they turn to a roadblock, they are strangely not chased by the military vehicles just like a minute before. When they approach the sphere, a bomb strikes at the sphere, which is authorized by the government. This causes the car to flip over and Michael dies right away. The remaining tries to run away from the insect clouds and hide in a tunnel. Jacob and Helen begin to bleed out from their noses, revealing the penetration from the nano-insects. Helen pleads with Klaatu to save Jacob. Just then, Klaatu decides to transfer all the infection into his own body. He then walks straight to the storms of insects and tries to reach the sphere, sacrificing himself to stop Gort. A moment later, the nano-insects are brought down, making the technology devices becoming useless and immobile. There is a mass blackout around the world. Humankind is finally saved. Jacob and Helen come to the sphere and understand that Klaatu didn't die, he is just leaving. Like and subscribe to watch more videos like this, and don't forget to turn on your notification. That really helps my channel. Thanks for watching.